Hi, I'm Jeff Baker from the Oregonian, and this is Marc Mohan. We're going to spend most of our time this week talking about True Story, the movie based on the memoir by journalist Michael Finkel about his strange encounter with Oregon family murderer Christian Longo. For those unfamiliar with the grisly case from late 2001, Longo and his wife and three children ended up on the Oregon coast. Longo killed his family, went on the run, first to San Francisco, then wound up in Mexico, was pretty quickly caught, captured, and brought back to Oregon and tried. But while he was in Mexico, Longo told people he was Mike Finkel, a reporter for the New York Times. At the same time, Finkel had just been fired from the Times for fabricating most of an article about child slavery in Africa. Finkel was ready to turn his phone off and go into hiding and disgrace when a reporter for the Oregonian called him and asked him about the murders, which Finkel had known nothing about. Finkel made contact with Longo. Longo responded. They began a correspondence that developed into a strange friendship. Finkel came out here and met with Longo several times, was really his only intimate during the period of the trial, and later wrote a book called True Story that became a movie starring James Franco as Longo and Jonah Hill as Michael Finkel. That movie now opens today. Mark, we both saw it. What did you think?
Well, that was a very good job summarizing a complicated series of events and the path that has led to this movie. And it is a very intriguing story at the core of it, the relationship between this journalist or ex-journalist and the accused killer. Unfortunately, I didn't really buy the casting of James Franco and Jonah Hill in these roles. I didn't feel like either one of them really disappeared into the role they were playing, and watching the movie, I just kept thinking of them as Franco and Hill, you know, who we know are off-screen buddies and compatriots, and it really prevented me from really getting into the story they were trying to tell.
I agree, and putting aside the morality of making a movie like this in the first place, which legally it's fine, but I think if you are going to make a movie about a horrific crime using A-list talent like James Franco and Jonah Hill, you need to have something to say, and that really, movie didn't really do it. So it had numerous problems, I thought, as a movie, as a piece of entertainment, and something to provoke thought. The first was, as you noted, the casting. James Franco did not really, I think, do anything to disappear into the role of Christian Longo. He didn't shave his beard. He didn't really do a physical character study to adopt the mannerisms of Longo. It was James Franco with sort of creepy eyes and a creepy smirk. And
so just James Franco.
It was James Franco, yes. Just like he walked off the set of one of his 13 other projects that he has going. Jonah Hill, by the same light, was, you know, he was a little more earnest and not his like manic over-the-top self, but it was Jonah Hill. Mm-hmm. A second problem I'm sure you picked up on, this movie has a distance, it has a reserve. Mm-hmm. It is watching these events from a remove. Mm-hmm. It is a dispassionate account of really something that is at its core horrible crime of passion. Mm-hmm. And I thought that it was very uninvolving. It gave the audience no chance to get in and empathize or root for any of the characters. Yeah. Mary Jane Longo and the children were shown only in really what were like some gauzy, unaffecting flashback scenes. And the only real spark in the movie was provided by a couple of women. Felicity Jones, the fine English actress, played Finkel's girlfriend, who got a chance to tell off Longo, and one of Mary Jane Longo's sisters got a chance to tell off Finkel for exploiting the story. At those moments, I thought the movie had passion and spark. Otherwise, it was like a chamber piece.
Yeah, well, those two moments are the only time that anyone in the movie really calls the two main characters on their on their shenanigans, and I think that's true, that the movie doesn't really have a point of view or a perspective, and that the Longo character, as well as the Finkel character, more surprisingly, come off as unlikable guys. So again, it doesn't leave you anybody to really root for.
Very much so. And, you know, it's hard to understand where or how this movie will find an audience. James Franco fans, there's a lot of Franco haters out there, we know, but as we've both pointed out, Franco and Hill have done fine work for other directors. But for Martin Scorsese, for Danny Boyle, you know, these guys can put their mania under wraps and give a good performance. It just doesn't happen in this movie.
No, they're both guys who like to experiment and work outside their comfort zones, which is great. Unfortunately, that doesn't always work.
No, and it certainly didn't work in this case. So a final note, this movie uses Oregon as a setting, but it's not filmed in Oregon. The whole thing was shot in New York, upstate and in the New York City area. So if you're looking for familiar landmarks, you're not going to find them. Other than that, which we're predicting a quick box office end for True Story, we don't see how it can expand, you know, beyond a week or two. A good science fiction movie came open this week, Ex Machina. I want to see it, but I haven't yet. Marc, you saw it. What did you think?
Yes, and you should. It's a very smart, interesting, imaginative movie about the invention of artificial intelligence. I know we've seen that sort of story a lot in the past, but this one really does a good job of tackling the issues involved and also telling a really involving story about a young guy who's invited out by his boss, who's played by Oscar Isaac and played very well, to sort of test his new creation, which is this female-shaped robot named Ava, and to determine whether she has actual consciousness. And to say much more than that would spoil what's actually a really great movie that I hope has some box office legs. I hope people aren't intimidated by the fact that it has some big ideas in it, and go check it out.
I'm really interested to see it. I'll just make one biographical note. Alex Garland, the writer-director of Ex Machina, is a novelist whose first book, The Beach, was adapted into the Leo DiCaprio movie by Danny Boyle, and then he went on to work with Boyle in 28 Days Later.
And Sunshine.
Right. So I think this, you know, it sounds like Ex Machina has what True Story wants to have: ideas, depth, and
a shifting perspective too, which True Story could have used, making us shift our allegiances between characters, and it does that really well.
Right. So good luck this weekend. If you're curious to see True Story, all I can say is the forecast is supposed to be in the 70s.